So welcome to this session. In every session we have something that is an intention for the class. And in this particular class, the intention is to do exploration of twists, of rotation of the spine. But of course this is yoga, so the session will include breathing and relaxation to finish the session. So to that end, I'd ask you to have a seat on your folded blanket or a bolster if you've got one there. And we will do a little breathing practice. Very simple, just to get us in the frame of mind for yoga. So have a seat in cross-legged or in the hero kneeling pose. And come to sit towards the front edges of your sitting bones and rest your hands onto your legs so that your shoulders feel comfortable in that way. And I'll describe the breathing practice. We're just going to keep a count of the breaths on each phase of your breath. And that's a 1 for inhalation, a 2 for exhalation, and we'll proceed to count to 10. So that's 5 complete breaths, and the count is for the phases of the breath. And we'll do that beginning now and when you're ready. Inhale for a count of 1. Exhale 2. And continuing. And when you get to 10, then let's recross the legs. And do another set in that manner. Inhaling 1, exhaling 2, inhaling 3, and so forth. And in whatever time frame your breathing pattern is, 10, and we'll recross the legs and do one more set. And having completed that breath emphasis, let's move to the mat and take a lying down position. on your back. And legs bent and feet on the floor. And as a warm-up for the base of the spine, let's do a few pelvic tilts. So exhaling and inhaling, allow for a little rocking through the base of the spine in tilting. And the tailbone moves away from you and towards you. Just have my hands resting on my frontal hips, and I can feel that part of my pelvis tilting towards me and away. Let's see if in the tilt of the pelvis towards you, whether you can press your feet a little bit more, and not so much that the pelvis is lifting off the floor, but just to increase the range of movement there. Pelvis tilts away from you and the sitting bones are moving towards the floor, pelvis towards you, sitting bones towards you. And then with your arms by your side, palms pressing downwards, let's take that into a pelvic lift for some small bridges. So lifting a short distance away from the floor, pressing your feet. And then as we come back down to the ground, the pressure is lessened onto the feet. And then last one, stay up. Keep the pressure on your feet towards the inside of your feet, the big toe base. Make sure that your knees are tracking straight and the stretch through the front of your thighs is from your hips to your knees. And then let's come back down to ground a little bit at a time until you're completely resting. Move your arms out farther to the side. And the arms make a cross with the chest. Bring your knees into your chest. And let's do a small rotation to the right side. The thighs are close to your ribs. We can turn the head and look the other way. And the thighs near to you and crossing over to the left side. And this movement is small so that you can keep the opposite shoulder anchored, the opposite shoulder blade anchored to the floor. And one more to the side. And stay to that side. And then let's come up onto all fours, kneeling. And place your hands underneath your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips. A little rock forward and transferring the weight towards the base of your fingers a little bit more. A little rock back and moving the pelvis back towards the heels. Let's do that momentum forward and back. Just a simple weight transfer, hands and then more to your knees. Stop in the center position and let's move the spine up. Duck the chin towards the chest. Let's move the spine down and looking out towards the distance in front of you. So moving from flexion to a little extension. And the movements are small and modulated by your breath, of course. Lastly, let's pause here in the middle and do a movement of your right hip towards your right shoulder. Look towards your right shoulder. Bring your pelvis back to center, and left hip towards your left shoulder and back. Let's do this kind of sachet of your hips, one side and then the other. And as much as possible, keeping the hips level. So there's a side-to-side movement, but not an up and down movement through your pelvis. Take pause in the center. Your weight bearing through your hands, your wrists, your arms. So we're doing a strengthening movement for our arms. Let's test that a little bit more by lifting your right knee off the floor and bringing right knee towards your chest. Extend the leg back behind you and tuck that knee in. Extend the leg behind you. We're keeping the leg and the hips in one line. Last one, leg extension. And then let's bring right knee to the floor. Pause, center your hips, and let's begin on the left side. So a little bit more work for your weight bearing. Rest if you need to by just bringing your elbows to the floor and your buttocks back towards your heels. Otherwise, we'll go one more round, knee to chest, leg extends back, and two knees supporting you onto your mat, two hands supporting you. But we'll take it one step farther and lift your right knee off the floor, lift your left hand off the floor, bring knee in, bring elbow in, and then extend those two limbs. Contralateral stretch. We're on the opposite sides of the body. Left arm, right leg. And tucking and extending. And well done. And back to ground. Your hand and your knee for the second side. Left knee comes in. Right elbow comes in. Stretch away. And looking down and towards your knee when you're tucked in. And looking out towards your extended limb when the arm is extended. And last one. And two hands and two knees. And open your chest forward. And do take a rest. Bring your elbows down. Bring your buttocks back. Maybe you're not ready for complete flexion through your hips, so the buttocks can stay a little elevated. Balancing your weight onto your palms. But now palms up. Stretch your thumbs, stretch your fingers. Beautiful. And from here, we'll take downward facing dog pose. But slowly, starting from all fours kneeling, lift just your knees an inch or two off the floor. Straighten your elbows, press into your palms and your fingers, and now lift your knees, lift your hips up towards the ceiling, down dog. Let's not hold that stretch. Come to kneeling, almost kneeling, I should say, and your knees are just hovered an inch or two off the floor. Press into your palms, lift up, extend your legs straight as you can in these initial hamstring stretches, and then lowering your knees one more time, almost to the floor but not quite. And then let's take downward facing dog pose and walk forward, walk your hands back, and inhale, come up to standing slowly. Well done. So let's practice, some strengthening work again. And we could say that chair pose is one of those poses that we work on to increase our leg strength. So have your feet slightly apart. Bring your hands into the joint of your thigh and your lower pelvis, or your bottom of your torso. Bring your fingers into that slot, and in that hinging from your hips, bend your knees. And rather than bringing your knees over your toes, bring them back a little bit, bring the head of the shin bones back, and then add the arm movement. And there we are in chair pose. Extend the arms, extend your sitting bones back, and lift your tailbone slightly. Exhale, straight legs, lower your arms by your side. And let's add the balancing pose here and come up onto the ball of our foot once we're in chair pose. So hinging from the hips, bending the knees. Have a look down and make sure that the knees are over the ankles rather than over your toes. And then from here, extending your arms out, lift your heels. On your heel rise, see if you can keep the heels up as you come all the way up to standing straight legs and lower your arms. Let's do that one more time, kind of waking up our feet a little bit more, actually quite a lot more. Take chair pose, sit your buttocks back, bring your arms up. Bring your heels up, and on your heel rise, see if you can stay more towards the inside of your feet, your big toe base, and then stay up for as long as you can, and exhale, lower your arms. Good. And then give your arms a bit of a shake out, shake a leg, shake the other leg, and then let's work on that a little bit more at the wall. Come right back to a wall slot. Bring your buttocks in contact with the wall, and then step your feet out. How far? About 40 centimeters from the wall. I've got a nice supported position with my shoulders, my buttocks against the wall. And then hinging from the hips, slide your buttocks down and bring your knees right over your ankles again. And we'll work on the strengthening of the legs through a timing here and staying for something like a minute. So we've already been there for a little bit of time, and we'll see how we go. You might make a few adjustments to your posture. Press your heels down, press your sacrum towards the wall, and allow your arms to be relaxed and your shoulders relaxed. For the last part of what we're doing, it's good practice for any tendency towards forward head position to keep the back of your head right in contact with the wall. So pressing onto the forefoot and inhale and coming up to standing, straightening the legs. We'll do that for one more time. It's such a beautiful strengthening movement, and sliding down again. There's a greater than a right angle behind my knees, but I've done this pose quite a lot, and not the least having done it today before. I'm going to come down a little bit lower. So there's almost a right angle behind my knees. But you have to work that out for your own leg strength. And it's fine to be up a distance. So I've been chattering here for a while. Maybe we'll count that as 3/4 of a minute. Feel the weight transfer now a little bit more into your heel bone, and see what effect that has on the backs of the legs. And then pressing your feet and sliding up. And that was something like a minute timing for each of those. Shake your legs out. All right, so last in this series of strengthening movements, before we move into some supported twists, I'll come into this position, but we're still using the wall. So I think a side-on position is good for your viewing. Have your feet a little distance away from the wall. In my position, I've got my feet placed about a foot away from the wall. This is another balancing pose, and because it's one-legged balancing, it is good for strengthening. So balance your way down to your right foot. The whole of your backside is supported onto the wall, except the legs. And then lift your left foot and place your left foot on the wall. So you've got two things happening. One is your standing leg. So we're working the strength through that leg for supporting you. And we're pressing the left foot into the wall. And when we add enough pressure there, we can move away from the wall, hips and shoulders and back of your head. And then what moves out must move back. So we'll move back, keeping the pressure onto that wall foot, and the whole body comes back in one piece. Let's do that again. And a push away. And a releasing back slowly. We'll do that for one more time. To break the movement down, when you start to move away from the wall, you're still in a little hinge at the hips, but then as you stand straight and without the wall support, your hips are extended. And then returning to the wall, let's switch legs. And your left leg is your weight bearing and your right foot on the wall. This is one particular pose that will show up the differences between your two sides. And then begin again in your own time. I know that for me, this is a weaker side on my supporting leg, on my weight-bearing leg. So the movement of my body is a little bit wavy as I come away and a little wavy as I come back. But nevertheless, it's good strengthening. And last one, and back to the wall. And we've done well there. And 2 feet on the ground, give your legs a shake out. And then grab a chair. I thought in this particular program that it would be nice to be using a chair initially for some twists, because often what happens is we end up in a very crunched position when we're seated doing twists. And when we're standing, then we have a little bit more freedom. So I've got my chair against the wall, and I'm going to use a yoga block. So placing the yoga block onto the chair and standing side onto the chair with my right side facing the wall. I'm in close to the chair. Left leg is going to be my standing leg, and right foot up onto the block, onto the chair. So as soon as I lift my right leg like that, I've jacked my right hip up. So let's level the hips. And now we can work into the twist towards the wall. Left hand, right knee on the outside of my right knee. And left hand on the wall right hand on the wall out from my right shoulder. So I've done a little rotation, head and neck and shoulders, which is a good place to rotate the spine from, and looking back. The hand on my right knee will keep it from dropping towards the wall, dropping out, or dropping into the center line of my body. So it's right, the right knee is in front of the right hip. And then stand tall and look around as much as you can or as much as the body allows at the moment. And then let it go. And let's go second side. Take a walk around. Now, right leg bears the weight. Anytime you do one-legged standing poses, that asks more of you, that asks a lot of the standing leg, it's doing twice the work as having 2 feet on the ground. And right hand onto your left knee, left hand onto the wall, stand tall, and begin to rotate. And look over your shoulder as you turn your head, your neck, your shoulders. Beautiful. So we're just warming up as we go along into that spinal rotation. And we'll do a little bit more. Back to the first side, or the original side. And right foot up onto the block. Left leg as your standing leg. Now what I notice when I'm standing close into the chair, that the front of my left thigh wants to come forward, and I have a knee bend over my ankle. So the knee comes back as it did in other poses we did, and the thigh bone comes back. And then let's go 2 hands onto the wall. We know our way around this. Pressing your hands into the wall. And then we can work a little bit more from the shoulder blades. So that left shoulder blade with the left hand onto the wall widens out a little bit more. Feel your standing leg. You might contract the left buttock and stretch at the front of the left hip. Release and round for the next side. And left foot up onto the block. Here we go into rotation with the help of 2 hands onto the wall. The hands are a little higher than my chest. I press into the wall, and the hands and the arms help me rotate that upper spine. Draw the right thigh bone back a little bit, right under its hip. Good. And let it all go, and lower that leg. And I'm going to ask of you to make this into more of a balancing pose. And I'm going to use a extra block for this. So I'm coming back to the original side and facing the chair. And if you didn't happen to have 2 blocks as I do, you could use a rolled mat or something underneath your standing leg heel. So the heel is elevated, and when you step up onto the block, you're very tall. It's kind of like doing yoga in high heels, which is a terrible thought. And we've got left hand, right knee again, right hand onto the wall. Just a reminder of keeping the knee straight and above its ankle. And then rotating. And then feel the weight transfer down into your weight-bearing leg and in the front of that heel where you're pressing into the block or a rolled mat. And grow yourself tall. Look around. If it's helpful for you, then 2 hands onto the wall. And then we're coming to the last side in that extra balancing part. Right heel elevated, if you can work out that additional prop. Left foot up onto the block. Stand tall. Well, you can't help it if your heel is elevated there. And feel the stretch at the front of the right hip. And I'll go straight to 2 hands onto the wall. Now working from the dorsal thoracic, the right shoulder blade widening out. Make sure that your left knee isn't dropping towards the wall. Press on the inside of your left foot. And then happily releasing, and we are still going to use the chair, but move it away from the wall. And it would be helpful to have a yoga strap nearby. We're going to sit on the chair side saddle. You might leave the strap for a moment. And the right side, my right side facing the back of the chair. Once you're seated in that manner, have a look at your feet. They're a little separated. And starting out, your knees are in a line. Make sure that you feel like you're settled through your sitting bones onto the chair. That's your base, and your feet part of your base. And then let's do our rotation, bringing the right hand onto the top of the chair, followed by the left hand. And I said earlier that if we do twists in this manner where we're supported to a large extent, where you were standing or where we're elevated but we're still sitting, then it's easy to open up the chest. And what you might consider is lifting your elbows a little bit out to the side, and that broadens the front chest even more. Feel as you rotate. Now the left knee starts to come forward of the right knee, and that's fine. That's as it should be. And looking around. And you might notice that the twist is a little deeper, or you experience it more deeply when you're seated than when you were standing. And let's go other side. And left side's facing the back of the chair, bringing the legs around so that feet are squarely facing forward. Just move a little bit on your pelvis so that you can feel your sitting bones supporting you. And then 2 hands on the back and the top of the chair. And round we go. And then releasing. And we'll go one more time. Take yourself back to the original side. And when you've done that this time, we're going to work more obviously with the breath. Bring your hands onto the top of the chair. Lift your elbows a little bit. Broaden your shoulder blades. And with your exhaling breath, draw the navel back and extend that breath a little bit more. And so we can rotate from the bottom of the rib cage. Inhale is going to help you elongate and stretch up, and the exhalation is what helps you rotate. Just 2 more rounds. Deep breath in, deep breath out. And last one. Left side facing the back of the chair. Exhale, feel the abdominal wall draw back as you exhale. I'm going to see whether we can turn from the low part of your chest. And finally releasing. And for the time being, we're finished with the chair, so let's put that to the side. Take a seated position and find some prop to use as a platform for your seat. And that for me is a threefold blanket. A bolster or something like that will do. And then extend your legs out in this most basic of poses, Dandasana. I mentioned earlier about having a yoga strap. We haven't used it yet, so just keep it close to you. And with your legs in Dandasana, reach underneath the tops of your thighs or the bottom of your buttocks and draw the buttock flesh back a little bit so that we're well and truly seated on sitting bones. And then keep the extension through the back of the legs. If your hamstrings are very tight and that's uncomfortable, keep a knee bend in any of the positions where the legs are straight forward. Bring your hands next to your hips. Dome shape your fingers and press down through your fingers and lift your sternum high. Take your shoulders back. Extend out through your heels. Dandasana. Keeping your right leg straight, bend your left leg in and slide your heel in towards the same side buttock. So we're moving into some variations of Janu Shirsasana, and we want to keep the foot separated from its mate. Its tendency is to slide underneath it. Keep the left knee well supported, and you can do that with the yoga block underneath the knee or a rolled blanket there. My hips are pretty open, and so I won't use a block there. The knee tends to drop towards the floor. Let's turn round towards the bent leg and have the hands on either side of the left knee. And then do a forward stretch over that leg. Opposite buttock lifts up, the right buttock lifts up, and I slide the hands forward. And I'm doing a lateral movement at the same time, opening up the side body, which is a good thing to do in preparation for any twisting poses. And then bring your hands back. And then looking straight forward in front of your left foot, bring your hands in front on the ground and slide out again. And instead of going down, and especially if you're up on your fingertips or find a way to keep your chest high, instead of going down, we're going outwards. And the top chest is still open. And finally, let's turn towards the straight leg, and in the same manner, hands on either side of the leg and sliding forward. This brings me a little bit more into the front of my, especially the straight leg sitting bone and also the hamstring. So if it's too strong, once again, keep the knee bent slightly. And then from here, let's turn this into a twist. Bring your right hand back on the outside of your right hip. Press your right hand down. Lift your left arm up and stretch that arm up. Then lean across to the outside of the right leg and catch along your right leg. That might be your left hand on the shin bone, on the ankle bone, or on the outer arch of your foot, somewhere along the leg. But then let's not commit ourselves to a forward bend here so much. We're working into a twist. So lift up your chest, lift it high, and then turn in the same manner that we've been doing in other preparation. So head turns, neck turns, shoulders turn. Good. And then release. And let's change legs. And left leg straight. Right leg bent out to the side. My right knee comes back a little bit more, so my right foot's separated from my left thigh. I heard someone say that your foot tends to be shy and it wants to slip underneath the leg, and we want to keep it out in the light of day. Let's turn towards the bent leg, and in that manner, we slide the hands out. The left buttock lifts up, and we just allow for a good stretch through the side body as we extend along the bent leg. Pull yourself back in. Go in the middle position in front of your right foot. And we're always tuned in to the difference between the two sides. So I have to ask a little bit more of my hamstrings on this side, but make sure that they're warmed up first. And then we pull up to face towards the straight leg and stretching out along that leg. And then we'll turn it into more of a twist. And left hand presses down alongside the left hip. Press it firmly. Extend your right arm up. Cast that arm over to the outside of the left leg. Palm against the leg or the ankle or the foot. Pull back, lift up. And then head, neck, and shoulders rotating. Beautiful. And then release and extend right leg with the left. Dandasana. Reposition yourself if you slipped a little bit off of your support. And let's take this into a variation with the arms coming forward and up. And with the arms stretched overhead, take the weight of the diaphragm off of the pelvis, and almost like the pelvis is lifting away from the legs and stretching up, and the heels stretching out, and lovely, and bring your arms down. And then moving on to a version of Marichyasana, bend your left leg in. Bring your heel close to its buttock or to the platform that you're sitting on, the blanket. And holding at the front of the shin bone is a beautiful way to sit tall again. Take your right hand out next to your right hip. Bring your left elbow on the inside of the left knee. Left elbow inside left knee. Palm is facing out. And then project yourself a little bit more and more, if you can, towards the front edge of your sitting bone. And turning. And notice where you're turning from. So the freedom in the head turning, the neck turning. Good. And then release. And without changing the position of your leg, then let's go the other way and see what that's like. And bring your left hand next to your, or a little bit behind your left buttock. Take your right arm up towards the ceiling and cast that elbow to the outside of your left knee. Hook your elbow there. Turn your palm towards the left side. And then see if you can bring back that nice posture that you had when you were doing an open twist. And that is, project yourself towards the front of your sitting bones, sit tall, and then rotate. Well done. And then let's go second round. And left leg straight, right leg, pull it right into your hip towards the buttock. Press that foot down on the inside. This is where you establish the space of the pose, the openness of the pose. And then it's right elbow on the inside of your right leg, left hand behind. Press it down, gain your height again through your spinal column. Press your knee against your elbow and your elbow against your knee to turn. Where are you turning from? Head, neck, shoulders. Good. Let's go other direction. Right hand supports you from behind or next to your right hip. Stretch your left arm up. How much length can you get along the side body? Hook your elbow to the outside of your knee. Press your palm outwards. It's facing towards the right. And then regaining the height again. Press down through your sitting bones. Lift up through the frontal body, right to the brim of your shoulders. Look around. Keep extending the straight leg forward. We don't want it to go into an early Shavasana. And then let it go and extend right leg with the left. Good. And then let's take Upavista Konasana. And lately when I've been teaching the splits pose, Upavista Konasana, I've been sitting on a blanket and just a corner edge of the blanket. So that seems to work really well for this pose. So a right angle corner of your blanket lets you just support your pelvis and not so much the backs of your thighs, because we want the stretch to come there too. So if we take our splits position, we want a challenging extension, but not so much so that it's uncomfortable for you to stay for a couple of minutes. Then bring your hands in front of you. Lengthen upwards and outwards at the same time as the sitting bones press down, maybe even the very topmost part of your thigh pressing down. And let's work our way into the twist of this pose. So turning towards your right leg, bring your hands on either side of your right leg, and then lengthen out. Support yourself with your right hand pressing down. Lift your left arm up and lengthen the whole left side of your body. And then in the same manner that we've been doing previously, reach out to the outside of that leg. Press your palm, the flat of your palm against the shin bone, ankle bone, or hold the little toe side of your foot. Then reintroduce the lift through the right side of your body. Press your hand down, lift your chest up, and then turn head and neck and shoulders to the right. Good, let it go. Let's take a walk around to the second side. And starting with your hands on either side of the left leg, turn as much as you can to line up with the straight leg, and then bring the right arm up and stretch it out. Reach your palm, the flat of your right palm against the outer leg, or hold the little toe side of your foot. Pull back and lift up, and head turns, and chest turns. And your left hand pressing down gives you a little bit more scope to lift up. Good. And then let it go. And to be very kind to your legs, reach your fingers underneath the inside of your knees, lift up, and draw the legs in and extend the legs out in front of you. We'll do one more version of the splits, and this is a what do we call it? Parvita version, a side extension. So left leg straight, both legs straight. Sorry, we're in the splits, and then take up your yoga strap. Settle yourself there. You may have slipped a little bit. Make sure that you're right on your sitting bones. They're well supported. And then take your strap onto your right foot. I've got a two-hand grip onto it. But now just your right hand holding the strap near to your foot. Move up the belt a little bit closer. And we're going to set ourselves up well for this sideways movement. So look at where your right arm is above your right leg, and it's lined up one above the other. And left hand, keep it onto your left thigh, just as a reminder to keep that leg active. So that leg is still extended out to the heel. And as we lean out more and more towards the right leg, you might come closer to holding the belt closer to your foot, or I'm so close to my foot, I'm going to reach out and hold the big toe side of the foot. You can do that holding the top of the foot if you're reaching that far, or a pistol grip onto your big toe like that. Stay with the hold onto the belt if that's at the stage that you're at. And then let's free up the left arm and bring it up towards the ceiling. And now we're going to line up one arm above the other, left arm above the right arm. And extending out and down. And we will repeat this pose on this side. So we're not going to our end range as yet. And then coming all the way up and changing legs. And slip the belt onto your left leg. Take up the hold on the belt so your arm is directly above your leg. Just your left hand holding the belt. And then reaching closer to your foot if you can. And still closer if you can hold your big toe or the top of the foot. So we're all about a lateral movement here. It's your lower ribs, but more obviously your upper ribs. And we increase that movement, that stretch through the upper ribs by bringing the right arm up and overhead. And as near as possible, your top arm above your lower arm. And as I said, we're doing this on repetition. So coming back up. And we go towards the right side again. And I think I'll keep using the belt. I don't have to go to any extreme here. And then let's add an alignment detail here. So as you're stretching out over your right leg, and now we bring the left arm up, we're going to take it out of being a forward bend by bringing that arm back a little bit and bringing the right shoulder blade forward. Right shoulder blade comes forward, lifts up. You could lift your gaze up here. And keep extending out through the left leg. You can't see what's happening there, but flex your foot, extend out through your heel. And then inhale and come up. And last side. And our hamstrings are well stretched here. We've been here for quite a while. And then take up the belt on your left foot and your hand hold near to your left foot as you can. And then let's try those simple adjustments on this side. Right arm overhead. Instead of dropping that arm, keep the elbow relatively soft, but lift the arm a little bit more and see if you can bring the bicep back a little bit towards your right ear. And then finally, bring your left shoulder blade forward as though you were trying to lift from your back left chest towards your left lung. And inhale and come up, and very happily bending your legs in and bringing your legs into Dandasana. I'll switch my blanket around so I'm sitting squarely on the front edge of it again. Dandasana, legs stretched out. And then I think it's timely to bend the legs. That will feel quite nice after all those straight leg stretches. Bend the legs and bring the heels close to your buttocks. Clutch your hands at the front of your shin bones, or clasp your hands. Pull yourself up to your full height. Lengthen up out of the lumbar spine. Very good. And then come off your blanket support. Shortly, we'll do legs up the wall. And before we do, we'll just take ourselves into so more in the forward stretch category, but we'll do a balancing version of this pose. So come away from the wall, come forward on your mat. Make sure that you don't have any props on your mat at the moment. And then step your, so your legs are bent, step your feet in closer and closer to you. Then separate your knees, reach your arms on the inside of your legs and grab your big toes. Bring your heels in closer still. And without rolling back, avoid rolling onto the back of your buttocks. You're going to lift the heels a little bit off the floor and see how you go to balance just onto your lower buttocks and your sitting bones. And now we're ready to move into the leg extension, lifting the heels higher and out in front of you. And following on Upavista Konasana and the pose that you did in the splits, let's see what happens when you bring the legs apart into the splits version of this pose, and then closing them back in and flexing the knees. And back to Dandasana, our old friend, that basic pose, and ready to move to the wall for some variations in Viparita Karani, legs up the wall. I have one folded blanket that I can use to elevate my hips. This is up to you. You can have your buttocks flat on the floor if you prefer. I've got a 3-fold blanket to support my hips, a little distance away from the wall. And if you prefer, it's fine to have your buttocks flat against the, on the floor against the wall. So in that sometimes undignified way of getting into legs up the wall, you might spend a little bit of time getting in as close as you can so that we're supporting the legs well, the buttocks as near into the wall as possible, and letting the tailbone drop down slightly. And here we're keeping the legs together, the feet together initially. If your approach to getting into the pose is a little awkward, see if you can adjust so that your shoulders are tucked down again and that the front of your neck is relaxed. Take a couple of deep breaths and allow, if you're using a soft prop underneath you, allow yourself to drop down and settle into that prop or into the floor. Notice your breathing pattern at this time. And we'll take the legs out wide into the splits variation. And eyes open, and have a look at, as you open the legs, whether the heels are at the same height. Sometimes it's kind of hard to tell from a reclining position, but as much as possible, the heels at the same height. If one's dropped out a little bit more, bring that leg up to match its mate. And then allow for the legs to be supported. And we're not working the pose so much as just giving time to create quiet, a sense of peacefulness through the body. Relax your ankles, your foot bones, your feet, your toes. And let's take one more variation. Bend your knees out to the side and bring the soles of your feet together. So in this version of Baddha Konasana supported by the wall, I've noticed my hips tilting up a little bit more. So let's see if I can drop my tailbone down again. Rest your hands onto your inner thighs or your inner knees. Your elbows are supported onto the floor. Not so much to stretch your leg muscles, but just a little bit of touch supporting the legs. Let's go back to straight legs From here, rest your hands onto your torso, maybe one hand below the belly button, one hand above. Let the wall support the weight of your legs straight up. Let your hands, and through that sense of touch, send the message to relax the belly muscles, relax the pelvis. And then just gradually lowering your legs and take a roll to one side. And we'll come up to finish the session sitting together. So sitting in cross-legged or in kneeling position, hero pose, rest your hands onto your legs, bring your elbows back a little bit. And in the practice that you've done a lot to rotate the spine, to stretch the side body. So feel into your body in those ways that we've awakened it. And create a sense of relaxation here. The hips well supported where you're sitting, the feet, the legs. And then allow the spine to elongate right to the crown of your head. Bring your hands into prayer position in front of your chest. Lift your elbows a little bit so those front corners of your chest that you've been working on opening are lifted and light. Bow your head towards your hands, really towards your heart center. Feel the heart elevated. Take a moment in appreciation for the yoga practice that we've done, and not the least for having done together. Namaste.